if anybody's around today. Anybody around? Hello, 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 hello. Ooh. Is that the end of that song? I think it is. What's up, nerds? Oh my god, our chat needs to be refreshed once again. We're back into the chat refreshment zone. Oh, welcome back to the chat refreshment zone where we have to refresh our chat. We got what? Why is this up here? Who changed this? Who did this? Was it me? I think it was me. There we go. Who was first to the chat today? I'm not certain. Witchy Cat. Looks like Witchy Cat. Ah, fuck. Okay. To those of you that are new to the show, just remember, if you got a speed square in your pocket, don't sit down in your office chair, because you're bound to get stabbed a little bit. You're going to get stabbed just a little bit, at least. At the very least. So there we go. That is your hot tip of the day. I want to make sure that I'm not losing my mind here with this monitor over here. Hold on a second. We got to do a thing here real quick. And typically, I could do this real quiet-like, but not anymore because they moved all the buttons around. Connect with your community. Introducing a new space where viewers can start discussions with you and your audience. Okay, I guess we'll do that at some point, I guess. We'll enact that for you. Oh, it's not the monitor. For some reason I'm looking absorbently darkness today. Brightness, contrast. We'll move the brightness up a little bit. And maybe the contrast down a little bit. Saturation? Why is saturation so high? There we go. Let's see where that is on the delay. We'll go back to live. There. We'll see how that color... What? These new tape measures, by the way, also are fantastic. They have a magnet on the end of them, but when you set them on your desk, they get stuck to things. So, word up to the bird up. Be careful with your magnetized, not only your speed square, but your magnetized tape measure. So we'll see where our color balances out here in between these two monitors, that one and that one. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 1, camera 2. All right. Apparently I'm talking to myself. Nobody's chatting. Hey, where's the chat? Oh, we're supposed to put the super chat goal. Oh my God, I'm a bad. I didn't put my goal up here. Our goal is 10 super chats. What should our goal of the day? How should we celebrate? Let's do a Saturday stream live Aquascape event. That will be our goal for the day. 10 super chats. If we get 10 super chats, I will set up a camera so that we can aquascape this aquarium back here, which has now finally rebalanced itself. I don't know if I can give you guys a better angle here. Let's see. Yeah. I can't focus on it because I would have to move the camera, and the camera it's grasping my face. It's catching my face. What if I cover up my face? No, that doesn't work. That's an older camera, so it doesn't do that. But as you can see, this tank is finally, after quite a while of cussing at the water parameters in it and making changes to the system, we are back to crystalline clear water and have we've defeated most of our algae foes. So what we're going to do is completely redo the tank now. And it is in my plans to have that be a live stream, but we'll see how well that actually works out in actual execution, as it were. Because one of my big problems is I got to take my computer apart, and I've had this capture card on my desk. You can see that there's dust on it now. It's been sitting on my desk because I need, right down here in the corner, I need 4 HDMIs because I need to get multiple cameras to feed into one computer. And I would assume that there's a different implementation out there to do that, but I don't have one on hand, A. And B, I think the other solution is something like in the ballpark of lots of money. Let's see. What was it? Hold on. Let's see if we can look it up. Let's see if we can't find it real quick. I know it's this is an enthralling beginning of the stream. Oh, we might have to find it on the internet. I think this is it. No. Nope. That's not it. Hold on. We'll get there. Maybe they don't offer it on Amazon. Oh, they must not. I'm guessing that they don't have it on Amazon. I guess we got to go to regular old internet. Regular old internet. I think this is it. We'll see if we can't find it. Oh my God. Amazon infected the browser. Do. Let's see if we can't find it. We'll just keep looking until people start chatting. Products. Is it this guy? I think it's this guy. Although I think this only has audio input. I don't think this has the video inputs that we want. Do. We don't even have any of our co-hosts. Where's Scogland? Where's Witchy Cat? They're not even in the green room today. Let's see. Yeah, this doesn't even have any. Yeah, this is $800 and it doesn't even have any video side of it. So we want. Yeah, and I think this is only like how many inputs is this? HDMI in and through. Here we go. Do 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 do. Here's the question. Yeah, see, that's only two HDMI. It's there's one pass through, and then there's an HDMI. That's it. So not enough, because the reality, what I need right now is 3 cameras. Because we're gonna need one overhead camera, and we're gonna need one camera inside. That's going to be the biggest conundrum of how to shoot that. But I rigged it up a while ago with the camera in there, and that worked out pretty well. So I think we'll be able to do it. I don't think it'll be a problem. I think chat's broken today. Is chat broken? Oh, no. Okay. Chat's not broken. All right. At some point, then I'll just start talking about what the stream topic is. But, you know, I guess normally this is the time where I give, like, the weekend update. But this weekend was just so uneventful. I'd be hard-pressed to even tell you all about it. We did have some big backyard news around these parts. This last weekend we were actually, I don't think we were scheduled to do anything this last weekend. No, we were supposed to go up to Alaska this last weekend, but that was canceled for a multitude of reasons. It was like, how much is this going to cost? What are we going to do? What's going on? Going up to Alaska for a couple of days, and so we just decided not to. We were like, nah, let's not. I believe we're going up for Christmas this year to Alaska. I mean, that's assuming that everything still exists the same. 6 months from now. Sorry, 5 months from now. I keep forgetting it's July. I keep thinking it's June, but it's not. Kiwi Mamo with the how's everyone this fine Tuesday morning? No frost this morning. Nice and mild out. Looks like it's going to be nice today. Yeah, today it's hot and sunny once again. And I think we are in the hot and sunny pattern here for quite a while, I think. Yeah, absolutely zero precipitation on the horizon on the 10-week weather action here. Just got a message from a friend of mine saying the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates Social Security insolvency in 7 years under the new 2025 Tax Act. They predict for 2032, a single earner will see a cut of $13,600 of annual benefits. Low-income couple, a cut of $11,000. Higher-income couples, a cut of $24,000. Well, that's a bummer. I don't like that. But I have spoken on Social Security in the past a few times, much to the chagrin of people. They get super fucking piss baby about it, but it's still, once again, the first and foremost thing to remind people is that if we fund it, it will operate. Not a huge conundrum there. The first step, in my opinion, to funding it is removing the cap. Currently, right now, I have to figure. We have to look up what the new table is. $176,000 a year. So, to explain this in a way that I can audibly, is that you pay in to Social Security if you earn money. Up. And they keep raising it, by the way. They keep raising this every year. Up until $176,000 a year. So if you want to look right here, this is the federal tax table. Not from the socialsecurity.gov website. That you pay Social Security up on your earnings up until $176,000 a year. And then you don't pay any more Social Security. You don't pay into it anymore. After every dollar above $176,100 that you earn, you don't pay Social Security taxes on it anymore. They're like, we're cool now. You don't need to pay any more. Right? And I would say that fundamentally, like, one of the first things that you could do to help Social Security continue to exist easily is, where's my whiteboard? I need my whiteboard for this. I don't even use the whiteboard anymore. Did it move up? I gotta move it to the front. Like that. Then we need to engage with the whiteboard. How do we engage the whiteboard? This is scribbly-doo color. Right. So what we need to do is take this and eliminate this. We need to take it like this and then draw a line through it. And draw another line through it just for good measure. And just get rid of this entirely. You know what I'm saying? Get rid of this cap. It doesn't matter how much, it shouldn't matter how much you earn. You should pay into Social Security. And if you make $100 billion a year, you should still pay in on all of those dollars. But one of the real tricks of the trade there is that most of the people earning above this amount of money aren't earning it through wages, right? You got to think these people are getting stock incentives. They're getting deferred payments. They're getting ancillary benefits, which are always kind of confusing to people. But think of it this way, that every time you go out to dinner, every time you travel, every time you do something, you're compensated by the company because the company is just like, hey, we got you, bro. Don't worry about it. And it's more often than not referred to as a benefits package of the position that you have, right? So think of the old school super rich guy, right? Like the old anecdote of like Alfred driving around Batman, right? If you are Batman, if you're Bruce Wayne, right? Wayne Industries is essentially the one that's paying for Alfred, right? So Alfred's wages, Alfred's healthcare, Alfred's housing, his food, all of that shit is being paid for by Bruce Wayne Industries. And Bruce Wayne doesn't actually pay out to have a manservant at all. Like, he never even sees the detriment on a personal basis of having a manservant like Alfred, right? What was that? I had a timer set for something. I don't know what. We had a timer just went off on my phone. And I don't know what that was for. Are the cookies done? I don't have any cookies in the oven. Is it, well, I don't know. I don't know what that timer is for. We'll find out if it's important later. So, more often than not, the people that are earning that kind of money, right? And it's the same thing with senators and representatives in the House and whatnot, most politicians and whatnot. It's all of those ancillary bills that us average people are paying for. Like, shit, I didn't have time to pack a lunch today. Guess I got to go buy lunch today. Boom, there goes $20 out of your earnings, right? Oh, I got to go fill up my truck with gas. There goes $50. Oh, I gotta pay my truck insurance. Oh, there goes that. Oh, I gotta go get an oil change on my truck. There goes $100, right? Like all of those ancillary bills and fees and crap that us like normal, everyday, average fucking earners around here are having to pay out every month. Those high earners don't have to pay any of that stuff. I mean, just think of getting to drive a Bentley around, right? I mean, I guess a Bentley's not even a great example, but imagine driving around a Bentley and having a driver drive you around in a Bentley, and you don't even have to pay for any of it, right? Just from the standpoint of like, as a guy like me going to sit in my truck every morning to go off to the job site, and me not having to do that anymore, that would be grotesquely huge benefit for me. Like if I could just sit in the back seat and take a nap, right, and play on my phone and email people back, message all the people back and stuff, instead of having to actively drive. And the reason for that is in the 80s, all of the regulations around that went away, right? So it's like, you're a big CEO. Oh, he's making $19 million a year, but actually his income is only $225 or $250 or $1 million, but $18 million of it is in stock options, right? And your job as the CEO is to have this never-ending growth pattern, right? And one of the reasons for the never-ending growth pattern is that if you own, say, 1,000 shares in Boeing, how much is Boeing right now? Boeing stock price. Now you're gonna need to own a lot more than 1,000 shares. So Boeing is currently at $236, right? So let's say you're the CEO of Boeing, and you get paid. Here we go. Let's do this, and I'll just show you what I'm looking at here, so you guys can see what the hell I'm talking about. So right here, let's say you're the CEO of Boeing, and in January, you get paid $19 million in Boeing stock, right? Right at the beginning of the year. So because your job isn't really to build a business per se, your job is to make this price go up, right? That's it. This is your job, is to make this price increase because they paid you in this. And the reality behind that is that you're 100% incentivized to make sure that this goes up. So you're paid $19 million here in stock, and it's at $171 a share, right? Obviously, this is a problem when it goes down, but instead of selling your stock or doing anything like that, what you do is you go to the bank now, right? So then you go over to whatever bank you want to bank with, and you say, I've got $19 million in Boeing stock, right? I need a loan. I want a loan off of my Boeing stock. And the bank will say, okay, we'll give you a loan on how much stock you have. So the bank is going to take a gamble, essentially, that this will never go to zero, right? And then they'll say, hey, what we'll do is we'll give you $10 million loan contingent on your stock, right? at the current price. The bank is assuming that this is going to happen, that it's going to go up to $236, right, as opposed to $171, which it has. Now, the CEO himself doesn't have to pay any income tax on a loan because a loan is not qualified as income. So at the end of the year, you don't have to pay any taxes on that loan. And you're just holding your shares against the loan you got from the bank, right? And that's how these guys work around not even having to pay Social Security anyhow. But I believe the act that was is the Glass-Steagall that was overturned in the 80s. Was it Glass-Steagall? No, Glass-Steagall, this was the banks. What was... we have to find it here. It was in 1981, right here. And it's super funny that the current administration does this thing where they will name things to try and act like, oh yeah, just remember from the past, it was good, right? In 1981, the Economic Recovery and Tax Act indeed introduced a form of qualified options known as incentive stock options. The key takeaway that these ISOs under the ERTA allowed for potential taxation on the long-term capital gains rate upon the sale of the stock, offering a more favorable tax treatment compared to an ordinary income rates, according to SecFi. It is important to note the specific requirements to qualify for this favorable long-term capital gains treatment. The stock acquired through the excise of the ISO generally needed to be held for a certain period of time before sale. For example, a holding period of at least 2 years from the grant date and 1 year from the excise date is often cited as a condition for recovering long-term capital gains treatment. But we need to find... Like, this was the catalyst, but I forget what exact... What was the exact act that allowed... Oh, we're downloading a gigantic PDF. We don't need that. Where's my chat? Oh no, I'm late. We're doing stock things now. I don't know. You guys showed up. Nobody showed up to the chat today, so I'm off on my own tangent right now. I haven't even addressed my cheeseburger theory yet. We'll get to the cheeseburger theory at some point. Holy crap, it's 2:45 already? All right. I did a fish tank review earlier also. Hey, this tank is way healthier now, although it is being noisy right now. Although you guys can't hear it. Although you might be able to hear it when I talk. That might be the deal. Hold on. We got to do a thing. This will be fun. Had to hit the feed button. Had to hit the feed button and get the get the air out of the system. It had gulped up some air earlier, and it was being noisy, and then it was being quiet, and there we go. Now it's back to normal again. So can't hear the tank. Had to turn volume way up to hear today. Really? I don't know. I mean, I can always raise the volume. I can always raise the volume. There we go. Is that better? I think I may have bumped that slider down. Oh, I hear my dog barking. Little Lucy. She is a great dog, but she does have a tendency to freak out if somebody's walking around. So don't be walking on the road around Lucy. She'll be barking out. She'll be barking at you. Oh, let's find out. She seems upset. What you doing? What you doing? Who you barking at? What you barking at? Come on. Come on. Come on. She jumped. She's a jumper. This is little Lucy Lou. If you guys want to say hi to Lucy, she's the cutest dog around. Can you say hello? I'm a little dog. I'm a little bark dog. Do you see a dog on the TV? Do you see a dog right there? What dog is that? What dog is that? What dog? Can you see a dog? Whose dog is that? Is it you? Oh. She is pretty funny. She's a squirrely little dog. We got her from a random guy in a Home Depot parking lot. He was standing outside with a sign that said "puppy for sale." and Olivia and Vicky went out and they were like, "Oh my God, this dog's the cutest freaking dog ever." And I was like, "That's a pretty cute dog." And then Vicky was like, 2 weeks later, she was like, "Why didn't you tell me not to buy this dog?" And I was like, "Babe, I'm not your dad. Okay. I'm not your dad. I don't tell you what to do. If you want to get a dog, you get a dog. And then we deal with having a dog. That's how this relationship goes. You know what I mean? Like, we're in a relationship. I'm not your parent, you know? I'm just trying to do my best in this relationship. And you were like, you want a dog? And I'm like, yeah, hell yeah. All right. You can get a dog. Holy shit. Dark Lumen. Is this live? Fuck. I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. It might not be live. I might not be alive. I might be dead, to be honest with you. I might be in some kind of weird limbo after death. Or maybe I'm in the Matrix. I don't know. Maybe I'm just in the Matrix. And that's it. We were talking about the stock options in the early 80s. If anybody is super interested, you guys can read. You guys can just look up this PDF right here. And it's from Cornell University. And it will send you along your time to read. But essentially, like, Cornell does a review of the laws that were put into place in 1981. I do remember reading this about 1 billion years ago. I believe in school. I think I ended up reading this in school. Yeah, because this was published in '83. Because I'm having like flashbacks to remembering reading a lot of these sentences in here. But this law in this act in 1981 has led to some of the most extreme dismantling of this country that as it's a total dismantling of what America was, along with Glass-Steagall. This one right here. These two acts, simply put, have led to so much devastation in this country to the point where my cheeseburger theory is accurate, because this last 50 years between these two acts has essentially led to the cheeseburger theory being real, right? And I'll try to explain this. And I've been thinking about this for a while, and I've been thinking about like how to make a video about it. And the simple like explanation that I have during a live stream without having written it out to read to you guys is that in the United States, this country, over the last 45 years, 50 years, 60 years, somewhere in that time frame, the United States has 100% been putting all of our energy into what I call the cheeseburger theory. And the theory of the cheeseburger theory is everyone in the United States, and that doesn't mean that just because there are a few outliers existing, standing on top of a mountain at this very moment, everyone in the United States is essentially an hour away from a cheeseburger, right? That there is always a cheeseburger on the horizon wherever an American is in America, essentially. And the way that I would describe that is there is a gas station with a cheeseburger, there's a McDonald's, there's a Dick's, there's a Burger King, whatever, on every street corner, within any hour direction you go, there will be a cheeseburger. And that Americans just don't understand fundamentally, like at this point, what it is like to be without a cheeseburger. And the cheeseburger is a metaphor for everything, but it also is just a cheeseburger, right? Is that we've focused on the cheapest, lowest tier abundance in this country for the last 50 or 60 years. There are current people out there with who's the guy that wrote this goofy abundance book? What is it, Ezra Klein? Yeah, Ezra Klein wrote this abundance book along with Derek Thompson. And this abundance book is claiming that supposedly the progressive movement is saying that, American liberals are the ones that are standing in their own way of moving forward, which is fundamentally ridiculous because there are multiple citations within this book where it's like they're highlighting, the liberals are the ones that created all this legislation to stop these things from happening. But once you go look up the legislation and who added all these amendments to it in order to hold up things actually happening, it's like, who's behind it? Once again, the conservatives and the Republicans are pushing against doing shit like just putting broadband in as one of the examples that was put into place. But yet, of course, it's it's the liberals that are the ones that are doing it, right? And it's like, over and over again, we end up with this argument that supposedly, oh, the Democrats are stopping things from happening because they want to have rules and stuff, which is just another, like, it's just essentially another way to, like, push the blame and play this whole blame game situation that, like, oh, well, now you need to be more lefty, right? When I would even argue that, like, Ezra Klein, I don't even know if he would even really be qualified as a fucking as a progressive anyhow, right? Because he's supposedly presenting the third way policy alternative, and as a way to initiate new economic conditions that will diminish the appeal of the socialist left and the populist authoritarian right, which is like the reality here is that the populist authoritarian right are the ones that are holding up any of the basic progressive things that we've wanted to have happen. And the reasoning behind that is that I say that is because they want to talk about repealing zoning regulations, right? And I don't care how many times you can show somebody that the people that are obstructing the zoning regulations are actually, not in my backyard conservatives, right? And yet they will constantly just circle back to being like, oh, it's the Democrats because they want to have regulations in place, right? And recently on a job where an investor came in and they want to bulldoze a bunch of houses that's on the water, and it's currently being held up. This is in my locality south of here, however many 20s of miles. They want to build this insane new housing project, right? Where they want to build these individually owned, monolithic, fucking gigantic houses with arguably some really nice architecture, some cool features. If you look at the pictures and whatnot and the renderings that they have, it's like, you know what? Those would look pretty cool, right? But here's the big issue is that they're just, once again, gigantic single family houses targeted at the rich demographic. So when you come to look at what houses they want to tear down, are these small, modest little houses. They want to tear all of those down and then build these giant mansions because it's on the water, right? And then people go, oh, well, it's being held up because of the permitting process. And it's like, okay, you want to build a $3 million house, a bunch of $3 million houses that are essentially 50 feet from the water with a giant road behind it, and you want to get rid of all of the regulation, right? Like, you don't want to do any surveys. You don't want to see how deep you have to go to probably toggle into bedrock so that this whole thing doesn't fucking slide into the water. And the issues with that is that, like, they go, oh, well, these are obviously, like, liberal fucking concerns, right? Oh, the fucking libs want people to do math and figure out if this building is actually even going to be safe or building this in the spot. But all it realistically is that it does, once again, it just boils back to rich people doing rich people shit and then trying to throw shade on the air quote liberals or whatnot. But to say that the cheeseburger theory that I have, it boils down to the last 50 years at least, the United States has been investing all of our time, energy, and money as a monolithic culture. And when I say monolithic culture, it's all of capitalism has run rampant and allowed these corporations to control everything. And those corporations have been funneling their services to the bottom. And a good example that's a good anecdotal example of that I heard an argument about recently was, well, why are video games still $60 when the production budget is $1 billion where it used to be $5 million, right? And it's because the corporations want to cater to providing all of these bottom-end services, and it's gone completely backwards. And I think it's pretty obvious to anybody who's living in the United States, if you actually sat down to actively think about what is going on, right? What are all of the things that are incredibly expensive? All of the things that are the top-down important things in life. Shelter, healthcare, your ability to have autonomy and not be reliant on a corporate actor that is constantly extracting money from you. Food, right? You can't get quality food unless you have a lot of money. So if you want to eat well and go the supposedly like Jordan Peterson, Andrew Tate fucking bullshit theory of you got to be a swole dude, right? You got to be swole. You got to eat nothing but organic fucking kale and Wagyu beef or whatever. All of that shit is extremely expensive. Water is slowly but surely going off the table. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight in a show just a little while ago, or in the show just a little while ago, was, and I added this to our Discord. If you guys want to be a part of our Discord, you can. You just have to you got to give some of your money to Google and these big-ass corporations to sponsor the show. But this is a perfect example of one of the things I was talking about in the show a while ago. This is where the fire hydrant was at ground level. Right here. The dog's looking up at it. Here's a guy right here. In 1955, this used to be the ground level. Here it is in 1977. Moving forward in time, 1988, this is where the ground level used to be. 2004, 2008, 2016. There are more examples of this that are just over the next 9 years where this has continued to happen in the San Joaquin Valley in California. And one of the reasons that I try to talk to the aquarium community is that you guys most likely have an understanding on like how important water is in your day-to-day life, just from the standpoint of you keeping aquariums. But corporations are doing this where California is sinking. And what that is just the straight extraction of water. So when we get to food, we have a cheap-ass cheeseburger that you can access at all times. Water is being extracted at an exorbitant level, even in just one example of what's happening in California, in one part of California, by the way. Shelter, which is now virtually unattainable to most people. I mean, I understand people are still buying and selling houses. I heard that the median home price was $143,000. The median home price was $435,000. Most recently, median home price. We don't want cookies. We want dogs. We want cookies. We don't want cookies. We want puppies. Yeah, the median home price is $435,000. The median price, has just continued to rise. And so let's say we put in what is the current the current interest rate is 6.76 is the current mortgage price. So let's put this in. So home price $435. You need a down payment of $87,000 if you're going to do 20%. Most people don't have that. So let's do 10% and just be what the fuck? Does your shit not work? How does this not work? Oh, you have to go to the front? 10%. There we go. 30-year. Yeah. So the average mortgage right now, if you're to buy a $435,000 house with 10% down, I know most people are doing 5% down. So we'll copy this and we'll put that right here. So we need, where's that calculator? Where'd that go? There it is. Paste. Can we paste? Maybe we can't. Why can't we paste into the calculator? All right, fine. We'll type it in. 2547. Dude, what the fuck? Can we enter the goddamn... what was it? 254733. Okay. Then we need to multiply that. So yeah, currently right now, the median home price with 10% down, the mortgage payments you're going to be making every year is $30,500, right? So you would need $30,500 just to make a home payment right now. That's this number right here. And if you wanted that to be a quarter of your income, let's say you make it a third of your income. I mean, you still got, right now you got to be making $90,000 a year to keep your house cost at a third, right? Which it's not even supposed to be a third. I think your house is supposed to be a quarter of your income, correct? Yeah, no more than 28% of gross monthly income. So you got to be making $100,000 a year just to have that even make any sense. %of individual Americans earn over $100,000 a year. That's higher than I thought. %18 is not great. I've only ever heard a third. Yeah, it's 28% is what it's supposed to be. Which is why I was thinking it was a quarter, but it's in between a quarter and a third now, apparently. But when I was in school, they said that your housing, whatever you're paying, rent, mortgage, whatever, it should be a quarter of your income. But I think realistically what they're doing there is they're saying it should be a quarter of your gross, not your net, right? Which is two vastly different numbers. Oh, do I even know how to spell receipts? No, I don't. Okay. I before E except after C. Duh. Hello. Everybody knows that, right? Yeah, and it's so like once again, one of the things that I've tried to talk about on numerous occasions is that I'm not anti-capitalist. Like I'm not an anti-capitalist weirdo that somehow thinks that like communism or something is a fucking great idea. They are not. But what I am pro capitalism. I'm pro investing. I'm pro the businesses being able to operate, businesses being able to grow, businesses being able to push back against insane labor demands, right? Like I'm pro all of those things. You know, if labor was asking their owner class to be like, we require a back massage break every 10 minutes, right? Obviously, that is fucking patently absurd, right? And that would be absurd for anybody to make a ridiculous demand like that. But everything that happened throughout the 80s, and I've been alive for all of this shit, was to get rid of unions so that labor was unable to make any kind of demand in regards to anything that was happening. And one of the fundamentally big reasons for that was to offshore everything. Now, I'm personally in favor of offshoring certain businesses, right? And the ability to coordinate between two countries. For instance, like let's just use Vietnam as an example. That like Vietnam has a workforce that is ready to do X, Y, and Z. And a company in the United States is wanting X, Y, and Z. And the two countries are able to actually work out an amenable deal so that the workforce in Vietnam isn't being subjugated in a way that is extraordinarily close to slavery, right? And my reasoning for that is that I'm not a racist piece of shit, right? And I think that business opportunities for other countries and other, in other demographics around the world should be 100% allowed to happen. And there should be opportunities for all of those countries to industrialize and move up also. I don't think this is too patently a weird of an idea to be like, yeah, I don't see why other countries shouldn't be able to build and do things. That should seem pretty basic for most people, I think. But when we're talking about what was done with the capitalist class in the United States to offshore those jobs was simply a savings. It had nothing to do with a demand that was coming from those areas that like, hey, we understand you guys are making tires, but we're making tires already. No, that's not what they did. And Apple is like a perfect example of that. That Apple spent all of this time and money in China. How much did they put into it? It's in the billions and billions and billions of dollars. Apple Apple is invested and estimated to be around $55 billion per year to build out a workforce and a supply chain in China. Right? Now, the reasoning for this insane amount of investment was so that they could extract wealth from China, not to assist China in any way, right? Any of this Chinese workforce. Apple estimates that it has trained 28 million Chinese workers since 2008. And this is a perfect example that if this was done in a way that wasn't exploitative, right? That you'd be like, oh, I'm kind of all for that. All right. You know, providing education and teaching these people skills and doing all this stuff, that's great. But why were they doing that? They weren't doing this out of any kind of altruism or anything like that. It was so that they could sell a $1,400 phone in the United States and extraordinarily diminish their cost, right? China let this happen because the China as a state didn't want to pay for training and teaching these people, right? So they're letting these outside investment come in so that they can have an exploited workforce, right? And here's where a big giant problem comes into effect, right? Oh, well, this wasn't illegal because all of the laws around this were ripped away a couple decades before that. So you would have never expected that this craziness would have happened, right? Because you can't predict the future. You don't know what's going on in the future. But the people at the time knew that this shit was problematic, passing that stuff in the 80s. But because of fears of communists and this and that and the other thing, they just let it happen. I mean, the Ronald Reagan administration was just allowed essentially to do whatever the fuck they wanted. Whereas this investment could have easily happened in the United States, spending $55 billion a year to train 28 million workers in another country, which if you just make that statement on its own, you're like, well, that's reasonable. They just wanted to train 28 million people. But then you go like, yeah, but why? Why did they want to train 28 million people? Oh, don't ask questions. Okay? Don't ask questions. This is humanitarian or whatever, right? But a lot of this boils down to regulation, which is a circle back to what I was talking about before. I'm a capitalist, and I think that capitalism should be allowed to operate. I think that investments should be allowed to operate, and I think that companies should be allowed to operate and grow. But these things need to be regulated, right? The regulations do need to be in place so that we aren't exploited to a point where we are now, where housing is off the fucking charts, where food is essentially trash. Like, good food exists in this country. We have tons of food. We have so much food, we're throwing it away. Like, I don't even know how much is our waste now. $133 billion pounds of food annually. $88.7 million tons. is just being completely wasted in this country. And like from a standpoint of like where my political beliefs live is that filling landfills is not a long-term strategy, right? And one of the reasons that regulations should exist and these things should exist is the long-term strategy, right? Of investing in a future that is in fact supposed to look like the fucking Jetsons. You know what I mean? Like we are supposed to be traveling in tubes, and we are supposed to be having the Jetsons work week, right? George Jetson's work week is very short, consisting of only 2 hours total, with 1 hour per day for 2 days. Right? Like, this is the future that we were supposed to be working towards, right? And long-term investments was how we were supposed to get there. And these groups got involved. These groups that are 100% in line with the modern day Heritage Foundation are the same people that put this shit in place to get us away from this. And I think that fundamentally, like my idea of the cheeseburger theory, right, is that the people in the United States are essentially pacified by the idea that the cheeseburger is less than an hour away, no matter where you are, right? And we are investing in nothing but all short-term returns. You know, you can, and one of the reasons that I do the Amazon vibrator ads on my live stream is it's sort of a joke in relation to my cheeseburger theory, that it's like you don't really need a vibrator, but you could order one and it will show up tomorrow, right? like you guys don't ever buy it. You guys don't ever click through the links, right? Like, here's a link. We're Amazon affiliate and whatever. They have the Federal Trade Commission, blah, 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 whatever. We get a commission if you buy shit through Amazon. But one of my whole reasons for doing the like vibrator ads, which we're not associated with any of these vibrators. I don't know any of these companies. I don't even know what's going on. But my whole joke behind it is essentially that the de facto plan has been to constantly push the lower tier inputs into the United States, and then now we're seeing the result of that, where Donald Trump seems like a reasonable guy to vote for president, and I'm trying to figure out like why people even voted for the guy. When I talk to people, they say, "Well, he's going to change the system," right? Like he's going to blow it all up. He's going to drain the swamp. He's going to take care of the immigration issue, which, by the way, like I remember that when Joe Biden passed the executive action, a temporary shuts down asylum requests when daily encounters exceed 2,500, right? And then all of a sudden, people stopped crossing the border, right? We had a massive influx of people immigrating into the United States because COVID essentially stopped anybody from moving around for a long period of time. Then it picked back up. Then Joe Biden tried to pass a legislation that would allow for, by the way, a bipartisan legislation that included all of the Republicans' demands to put the judges in place, to get the people processed, to figure out who can stay, to figure out who should go, right? And when that failed, because Donald Trump called all the Republicans, by the way, and said to not vote for the bipartisan legislation, I think the guy that even helped draw up the plan voted against it because Trump told him not to. Joe Biden put that executive order into place, right? And all of a sudden people stopped crossing the border because all of this can be done with the legislation. That's it. We don't need to build a wall. We don't need to give $170 billion to Customs and Border Patrol. We don't need to stop the hiring of judges. We don't need to do any of that stuff because guess what? The border crossings all stopped once the executive order was put into place, and the border crossings stopped when Trump was in office and maintained the same executive order. That's all that happened there. It was well within our power to maintain our borders, right? So I don't know what that argument is about at this point, because supposedly this guy's going to disrupt the system, and I think now that people are starting to realize that this guy never was going to disrupt the system, that he in fact was an absolute cog in the wheel of the system. I think that this Epstein situation has shown a lot of light onto certain MAGA folks, right? Who are like, wait a minute. When people like myself have been telling you for years that this guy is a corrupt piece of shit, maybe we were right. Maybe we were right about how this guy is fucking garbage, right? And one of my main reasons for this is going back to the recent history of the United States and saying Donald Trump is a representative of all of this terrible shit that has already happened in the United States, has already led to all this stuff, and is going to lead to more of this shit. I honestly think that this is the end of auto manufacturing in the United States. I don't think we'll have auto companies. I don't think we'll have auto companies in the United States anymore. I don't think we will. I mean, I think they'll exist for a while, but this will be the mark of the year where cars won't be made by U.S. companies anymore. This is marking the downfall of the automotive industries with this insane tariff nonsense. Where is the quarterly report? It's not exactly the easiest thing to look up. The quarterly reports Q2 2025, because what they're doing right now is that they're wanting to show you the 2024 schedule. So, General Motors reported second quarter earnings Tuesday that beat Wall Street's estimates despite ongoing uncertainty from the Trumpsters' auto tariffs. The automaker affirmed its full-year guidance, on which it had lowered in May to include a possible $4 billion to $5 billion impact from auto tariffs. The company's core profit fell 31.6%. Shares of the company fell 8%. And this is having to do with the tariff situation. And apparently Trump, air quote, negotiated a fucking trade deal with Japan so that Japanese cars are, there's, I need to look this up so I don't accidentally, yeah, on July 22nd, the Trumpster announced the auto tariffs on Japan-made vehicle imports into the U.S. were lowered to 15% from the current 25%. However, the light isn't at the end of the tunnel just yet. Industry experts caution the trade deal struck with the U.S. is certainly a relief that it offers some certainty in the U.S. Tariffs on Japan-made cars won't rise to punitive levels, said Stefan Angrick, head of Japan and Frontier Markets Economics at Moody's Analytics. But I hesitate to call it good news. A 15% U.S. import tariff is still significantly higher than where Japan started, and a 15% tariff is certainly a higher rate than most had expected. And the idea behind this is to protect the U.S. automakers, which where is it? Let's see if we can't find the number. So we import $55 billion in Japanese cars, and there's no tariff on the American cars going to Japan. And I think it was a staggering number that we are just below $2 billion in exports. So we're taking in $55 billion worth of their cars, and we're only sending over $2 billion of our cars to Japan because they just don't want our cars at all. China is now exporting to Australia, whereas they really weren't before. They're adding in an extra 17%, which is slated to be another 32% to Australia, because Australia is not taking in our shit anymore. They're taking in Chinese cars. But yeah, I honestly think that this probably is the downfall of the U.S. auto companies. Like, I think this is the beginning of it. Yeah, the automaker reported adjusted earnings per share of $2.53, down 17% off the year earlier. And 17% drops. It doesn't sound like a lot when you just say, like, oh, it's just 17%. But that is insane, by the way. They're supposed to see a 7% increase. So you're talking about like a 24% swing against what our corporations are built on, right? It's not so much that our cars are too large. I mean, it's part of the issue. Our cars are too large. But you got to think, it's not just that our cars are too large. Japan has lots of regular, standardized size roads. It's that our cars aren't competitive with the cars that are available in Japan. That's what the bigger issue is. Like the technology, the comfort, the fuel efficiency, the fuel differences, the safety standards are all lower than what is already available in Japan. So like the 2 billion that we export there is like trucks, like work trucks and like expeditions, apparently, like big SUVs that politicians drive around in, right? It's that kind of crap. And so if that's solely your market that's going over there, but everything else is coming over here, this whole situation doesn't work out, because the 15% tariff just ends up being a charge. It's an extra tax on Americans that are already becoming threadbare. Like I said, you got to be part of the 18% of the U.S. population just to afford a median house payment at this point. Which, by the way, you go any higher than the number that I already put out there, or if your mortgage rate, where did that calculator go? I lost the mortgage calculator. I think I closed it. Hold on. I like the bank rate one. This one's reasonable. What's let's say that you don't have the best let's say that you do only have 5% down. Oh, that's 50%. I don't really, this calculator's annoying. Let's say that your house is $495. Hold on, I'll show you. I don't know why I'm not including you guys in this, but here we go. There we go. Let's say that your house is $495 as opposed to the $435. Let's say that you have dude, are you having sleep dreams? You're like wiggling your legs around all crazy? All right. Doug got on my lap and fell asleep. Because she loves me. And let's say that your rate is... Let's say that your rate is just 7.5. Well, now you're looking at $3,600 a month. Or let's say that you find a cheaper house that's just $400,000. But but once again, it just redoes the down payment calc. This thing is annoying. We got to find a different one. And let's say that your rate is there. Okay, there we go. You find a cheaper house at $400,000. You have a 5% down payment, which is still $20,000. You got to have 20 grand to put down. So you better save that up. Let's say your interest rate is 7.5 because right now the interest rate is at 6.7. So maybe you don't have an 850 credit score or whatever the fuck required to get the perfect one. And you do have to go out on the market here and find a mortgage and somebody to get you pre-approved and whatnot. And then right now you're looking at $3,000 a month out the window, right? And that's even with the cheaper than the median price, right? And also now you have all the maintenance costs of running your restaurant, running your house. And if you're talking about $3,000 a month that goes out the door, which by the way, my mortgage is higher than that. You're talking about a situation that is it's becoming untenable, right? For 82% of the population. There's going to be a few surprise people on Thursday. What's going on Thursday? I know Skoggs is not on his break. Or maybe he is on his break. I'm in the green room. We lost our co-hosts today. We don't have any co-hosts. So we have to wait on chat. Oh. The Bureau of Economic Analysis is releasing their report on Thursday. Oh, the consumer spending. is coming out on Thursday. And that's probably not going to be good. Because, like I said, a lot of the Q2 reports have come out, and almost every automaker in America has seen gigantic decreases. No more than the worst of the culprits, Tesla, who is supposed to be the car, right? The car of the future manufacturer. But I bought a thing that'll show up Thursday, and I didn't think anyone is ready for it. Okay. All right, that's funny. I still don't get how Americans can afford to live without with your wages and all the extra insurances you have to pay out too. Yeah, I mean that's one of the big things is that you know, it's very easy to pull the wool over your eyes because it's been marketed as that, like, we are free because we are like essentially independently paying for all of these services. What was that tax analysis? Somebody did it, and I have to find it. I would really have to find it. So the idea is that, like, oh, poor people don't pay federal income tax, right? Is always the argument, you know, because, you know, if you're poor, you're not really paying any federal income tax, but you're still paying into Social Security, you're still paying into LNI, you're still paying into FICA. And you do get some of it back, but you still are going to be paying some. And not to mention that, like, your payroll taxes that do go in. But here's, like, one of the bigger considerations right here is that a lifetime tax burden. One analysis estimates that the average American will pay approximately $524,625 in taxes throughout their lifetime, representing about a third of their total earnings, which is 34.7%. But there is a study. I would have to find it. I think it was it the Cato Institute? All right, dog. You're hurting my leg here. Because I got to have my leg up to hold you. Oh, my God. Did you just wake up? This dog just woke up. Look. Awaken! Awaken, doggy! Oh, what? You want to go outside and go play? Okay. Go play. Get him! She's like, what? She's like, what? Why are you sticking me out this door? So that, I don't know if it was the Cato Institute that did this, but I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, like, most of our air quote taxes aren't actually being paid out into the actual tax system. It's that most of our wages and everything are disappearing into these private services that we're essentially required to have. Like car insurance is a good example, right? Like most people that have a car have to pay legally have to pay some kind of insurance to be driving around. Otherwise you run the risk of obviously a giant lawsuit, but, like, not to mention the police, you know, can fine you or jail you for not having it. I would have to find the specific study that was explaining the actual mandatory spending and interest payments to exceed revenue. Well, this is actually just a study about how, like, the United States is running such an insane deficit now that our payments are just going to outrun the amount of money that we're even bringing in. Okay, maybe it's not that. I would have to go find it. And I don't know where it is. Let's see if we can't find it. See if we can't find it. I know that there was a cool study, and I probably should have saved it, but I never did. I remember reading about it. I mean, either way, like the easy way to talk about it for people would be that, like, hey, we're paying a percentage of our money out in taxes, right? But we're paying a percentage of our money out in taxes to not do things like supply daycare, right? So that you could say, okay, well, let's say that I only pay 25% in taxes, and then in Norway they're paying 40% in taxes. But like, we don't have daycare, right? That's funded, unless you're like insanely low income, right? You got to be threadbare, right, on the on your income level in order to get something covered, right? Instead of making it something that's provided, so that supposedly you want both parents to go work, right? And be more productive as a society, but we don't want to cover any kind of daycare, right? So it's like, yeah, okay, maybe I'm only paying 25% in taxes, but I'm paying out $3,000 a month for 2 kids in daycare, right? And you're like, well, how much is that? Well, we already figured that out earlier, that like, let's say your house payment is $3,000 a month. You got to be making $100,000. And if you're making $100,000 and $3,000 of it's going to your house and $3,000 of it's going to the daycare, what's left, right? And I think that's an easy way to explain that, like, yes, maybe we're technically paying less in federal taxes, but we're not getting the services that we need, and we end up having to pay out of pocket to a private company instead. Break just finished. Oh, yeah. It's pretty wild. My wife works part-time from home. I'm full-time, but if she went full-time, her whole paycheck would go to daycare, so it's cheaper for her to stay home. Yeah, that's the big issue, right? Is stuff like that, where it's like, instead of having a regulated insurance, for your car insurance, right? It's like, oh, no, it's all just private companies doing whatever the fuck they're doing, right? And we've gotten rid of a lot of the laws that say, hey, you guys can't collude with each other to get the prices up for everybody, right? Because if you're whatever, State Farm or whatever, you can't meet with the other insurance companies and say, hey, this is how much we're going to charge. How much are you guys going to charge? And let's just make sure that everybody's charging a lot, and Bob's your uncle, right? Which is essentially the same thing with all of those required services. And to like really, really, really simplify like my opinion on like how capitalism should exist is that if you have something that's considered an elastic market, right? So what are some items that are elastic market examples for people? And that would be things like a flat screen TV. You don't need a TV. You could want a TV, and you could save some money and you could buy a TV. Extra clothing. Just all this random shit you buy, right? That you don't necessarily need as an item. It's maybe something that you just want. Like this water bottle right here, right? Like I don't necessarily need a water bottle. I could probably survive without a water bottle. That would be considered an elastic market item, right? Is it like I don't necessarily need this water bottle, or I could even just buy a used one or whatever. But you're more than welcome to kind of do whatever you want as far as the pricing goes or whatever, as long as you're operating within the law, right? Like you can't just be polluting waterways. But if you want to sell it for $7.99 or you want to sell it for $10.99 or you want to do it, that's fine. Not a problem. I just think that capitalism runs rampant problematically on the inelastic things, right? So food, you have to have food or you're going to die, period. End of story. It's not even a debate. You have to have some sustenance coming into your body. Shelter. Can you live outside? Sure, you can. It's not great for you. It's going to extraordinarily limit your output productivity, your output productivity. It's also going to limit the length of time that you live, and your health and whatnot. Not exactly elastic, right? You kind of need to be living inside. We've sort of set the stage that you got to be living inside to some degree, right? Does that mean that private companies can't build housing? No, that doesn't mean that. What it means is that we need to regulate the types of places that are being built to some degree, right? Like you shouldn't be able to build a $3 million house where we need more dense living situation, right? If you're going to build a good example would be like, let's say you're going to build a convenience store, right? On the street corner. Let's look up like, here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about here. Like, if you're going to build a convenience store like this on the street corner, you've got all this paved area. The cars come in, they get gas. You walk over into here, and you buy some stuff. Whereas you see a street corner here, which is not... this is not weird in the world. You see this all over the place, right? You have housing on top of it. Whereas you have, like, this place. Hey, we got a little store here. We have no housing up above it. But here, at the Family Mart, here in Tokyo, you've got a store, and then you've got housing above it. Whereas in the U.S., we have tons of this. We have these fucking strip malls everywhere where you have to put in infrastructure. You got to put in power. You got to put in sewer. You got to put in water. You got to put in gas. You got to bring all this infrastructure here to build a fucking strip mall. And then what's all this air up here? All this unoccupied space, right? Which easily, this is obviously an old building, but my reason for showing an old building like this is that it's been known that you could do this. And the reality is that this kind of stuff could simply be done through a little bit of regulation, because we know, right, that, hey, the housing is not an elastic market. Like, you can't just decide you're going to live outside just for the fun of it, right? Because at some point in time, your dead corpse is going to be out there frozen to the sidewalk, and then other people are going to have to figure out what to do with it, right? But when it comes to just like running a private business that's like, it's things that you don't necessarily need, okay, cool. But when it comes to things like healthcare, at some point in time, you're going to need healthcare in your life. It's, once again, not even a debate. You can't debate against that statement. I mean, you could. But it's a pointless venture, right? That at some point in time in your life, you're going to be born, and somebody healthcare wise is going to have to take a look at you at some point, right? And so even right there, just at the beginning of your life, you're going to need some kind of healthcare. And that's the type of shit that I would consider to be an inelastic market, in which we should be, as a giant community, working on supplying those things so that they're not being exploited, right? I recently heard somebody talking some bullshit about the diabetes insulin, right? Is that like, oh, well, our new insulin is so expensive because of how good the insulin is, right, as compared to the old insulin. So that's why it's so expensive. And you're like, it's not so expensive because of that. It might be a little more expensive because of that, but it is extraordinarily expensive because they have people over a barrel, because you're just going to die if you're diabetic and you don't have insulin, right? And it's those inelastic markets where you have no option other than essentially being exploited by the private market is the big problem here. And it's only going to get worse. This is only going to get worse. This is not, we're not making strides to make this better. And like a perfect example would be the as recently posted in the Guardian here, Zuckerberg made an announcement. Meta would spend hundreds of billions of dollars on developing artificial intelligence products in the near future, and to that end, construct a data center planned to be nearly the size of Manhattan. The parent company of Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp is among the large tech companies that have struck high-profile deals and doled out multi-million-dollar pay packages to AI researchers in recent months. Some as high as $100 million to fast-track work on machines that could outthink humans on many tasks, a concept known as superintelligence or artificial general intelligence. The first multi-gigawatt data center, dubbed Prometheus, is expected to come online in 2026, while another, called Hyperion, will be able to scale up to 5 gigawatts over the coming years. And what's weird here is that the multi-gigawatt data center is going to scale up to 5 gigawatts. They're not producing 5 gigawatts. They are using up 5 gigawatts of power for AI, right? And once again, this highlights that the resources exist, the money exists, the ability exists to invest in the inelastic markets, right? like I was talking about earlier. And yet, here we are. And it's like I talked about with Apple spending $55 billion a year training 28 million Chinese workers, right? That all, when I say that money all exists, that money all exists. The ability to do it all exists. But unless you're going to find another way to exploit the population, they're not going to do it, right? And it's one of the reasons why I'm a big fan of for the people, by the people, right? Is that the government is supposed to be operating for the people, by the people, so that we can continue to expand the ability of our community. And all I've watched over the last 50 years is the extraction of capital for personal gain, and the system is being rigged from the top. And it is, it's not encouraging me. It's not an encouraging statement to make. And that's realistically what's happening. But we have very low input today. It was a very low energy Monday, guys. So it's 4 o'clock. We're 2 hours in. And that means I'm going to go back to working outside. I don't know if you guys noticed when I was sweaty and kind of tired. I've been outside working today. I'm going to go back out in the sun and work on my inelastic market outside, where I can continue to improve the family zone here while I'm building the garden of Vicky's dreams and continuing to do that. Thank you, everybody, for coming out today. I'll see you next week.